Sunday morning, here to talk about gardening with Sally Cunnigham. You join us every Sunday. What's going on today? You're talking about...
I want to talk about what's good about snow. Something happening in our yards right now. If we had had those minus degrees, -0, you know, that sort of low temperature, and there weren't a blanket of snow, we would have killed a lot of plants last week. And even so, the 0 minus is going to cause some problems. Some things may die, and that may not come back next spring. But the blanket of snow is just like a mulch, or perhaps you did mulch with other things well. The mulch prevents the temperatures from going up and down, and that -16 degrees that it was at my house didn't reach the plant roots. The ones that were the most vulnerable were the plants that you planted last spring, summer, and fall. So those were at risk, but hopefully the snow saved us.
Okay, we have our first caller on the phone. It is Ruth, I believe. Good morning. What's your question?
Hi, I'm just wondering when you should start your seeds in the house for tomato plants and...
Okay, good question. When you're going to think about seed starting, get your setup all ready in your lights, but then read on the seed packets or get a good vegetable gardening book or flowers when it counts back from how many days until planting day. So when is planting day? Well, planting day is whenever your soil is really ready for planting, but I think for most things you should figure if they're cool weather vegetables, you can plant them in early April. If they're warm weather vegetables like tomatoes, call it June 1st. So count back from June 1st, and don't put your tomatoes out too soon into the lights because you'll just have leggy tomatoes. It's too soon for almost everything.
It's great also when they grow, you get to eat them, the fresh vegetables.
Oh,
it's
that's
the best.
such a joy.
Okay, our next caller is Gary from Angola. Good morning, Gary. What's your question?
Good morning. I grow Brussels sprouts every year, and I never can harvest my Brussels sprouts until December. What can I do to get my Brussels sprouts earlier?
Okay, you know, I do love them. I think you're doing great. The Brussels sprouts are sweeter and sweeter late in the season. But you can plant them sooner than you think. All the cabbage family crops, you can plant in early May, I mean, when the ground is still cool. Those are cold weather crops, possibly April, depending on if your soil's crumbly. So try to push that back earlier, perhaps start them inside under lights or something. But they will be fine, and I do love Brussels sprouts. Great crop most of us should grow.
It's always fun just to try growing new things,
That's
too.
Right.
All right, Colleen from Niagara Falls. Good morning, Colleen. What's your question?
Hello, good morning. My question is, these Christmas cactuses, I have one that's quite old. My grandmother used to put it down in the basement. What do I do where it's dark and dormant? Should I do that?
Okay, you have two choices. To come into flower, a Christmas cactus either has to have a cool, dormant period in the fall where it's dark, or it'll be just fine if you put it in a cool place that's light. I just withdraw mine into the cooler room of the house, maybe from September through November, 6 to 8 weeks in a cooler place, say 55, 60 if you can get them like that. They will flower then. They'll set buds, but they need that jolt to set bud.
Okay, next caller, Mary from Tonawanda. Good morning. What's your question?
Yes, I have a large planted bromelade plant, and I cut back on the watering, but I'm noticing that the center of the plant is starting to die. Do I cut that back, or do I just leave it alone?
Well, if you see clearly dead areas, you can always cut them back. Bromeliads take very, very light watering, but think of them as coming from a forest that when it rains, it's a lot of rain and then nothing in between. So wash some water through it and then let it air dry really well. Overwatering kills them, and you can cut out the dead part anytime.
I'm always amazed. There's always plenty to do in the winter, even though it's not green out there.
We plant people don't stop trying.
Okay, Sally Cunnigham, thanks so much for coming in, as you do every Sunday.